Hi guys, it's Amy with Aim to Plan, and today I'm going to be talking about how I am able to plan in multiple planners. So I got the question recently about how many planners I have and like how do I use all of these planners. And it just kind of like brought to mind that, maybe not everyone is a multiple planner type of person, and that's okay. I think it's totally fine. And in fact, sometimes I do move to just one single planner and use it to track everything. But I also like to really compartmentalize everything that's going on in my life. And so I wanted to talk about how I do it and just kind of give you, I think, my like process, my tips and my tricks for how to be able to plan in multiple planners and not be overwhelmed by the process. So, the very first tip that I have is when I'm using multiple planners, for me at least, I think the most important thing, the best tip that I can give you is to have one planner function as a catch all. And so, my catch all is really this planner on top, and I'm actually going to show it to you. I do have this other one here because sometimes I do revert or use this one as my catch all, and I'll show you some examples of that as we go into it. But for the sake of like my general process and just kind of talking about how I generally do it, this serves as my catch-all. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you know that this planner is what I consider my pre-planner. And pre-planner, catch-all, these are all kind of like words we use in the planning world to describe a bunch of different things. But for me, a pre-planner is, I mean, we call it a pre-planner because if you're into decorative planning, you have a planner where you write the things down before you decorate. And so it's a pre-planner in the sense of it's pre-stickers, the pre-sticker planner. But it is just a planner in my mind. And in this planner, I basically write everything down. So I'm actually going to flip towards the back here and show you some examples of this. So this is like starting in January 2020. I'm actually going to flip to something like maybe, let's just do, I'm picking a random week. I decided just to hop on and not even check this out, but I'm going to just do, okay, this is like the last week of March, beginning of April. And so this is like, again, I call it a pre-planner, but it's basically a planner. I do use this planner, especially this side right here, to write down all the events that are coming up. And so I don't try to be pretty about it. I just write down everything that I need to happen. And a lot of the stuff are things that I've planned out in advance. So if you want to consider it like a future planner or a future log, or like I said, a pre-planner, it's where I write down all the things far in advance. And again, like this is to me like the most important thing is to have a catch-all or a pre-planner, something that catches all of your events way in the future. Now, I know a lot of people, especially if they use multiple planners, they like to use their phone to like write down all the things. I do take notes in my phone, but I always bring them back, especially if I don't have my planner with me. I will jot things into my Google Calendar and just have it there. But I do also try to, as soon as possible, come back in here and write things out. So just to show you, like this is October of 2023 and we're like in August right now. So this is several months out. I have notes written in here, right? This is the end of October, beginning of November. I have notes written in here. I have notes for the week of Thanksgiving, right? And so I do go in here and basically write all of my events far in advance. Now, again, this is to me the most important thing in terms of like staying on top of everything with multiple planners and feeling not overwhelmed with it is to have a catch-all slash pre-planner slash, like a future log, whatever you want to call it, just a place to write down all of the events. I think that's the most important thing. I do. As kind of like a secondary tip to it, I do sometimes write in tasks as well in here, but I do for my purposes, I don't really like to write tasks far in advance unless those are time sensitive. And if they're time sensitive, like it's something like, for example, I have to renew my driver's license before a certain date, then I'll go ahead and put it on my calendar as a task for today or whatever day I think of it. And then I just kind of put next to it in parentheses that it's due by a certain date. So I don't put it, even if it's a time sensitive task, I don't schedule it for that day. I just put it on my list and just make sure that I make note that it's due by a certain day. So I just wanted to add that out there. But again, for me, the most important thing with juggling multiple planners is having one central spot that houses all of the events that are coming up. Because at the end of the day, that's what I'm here to plan, right? Are all the events, all the things that we want to do as a family, as an individual, the things I need to track for work, it goes into a single planner. And so that is this. Now, with that being said, I do also use the term catch-all kind of interchangeably or like kind of loosely, because I think it's really important when we're talking about multiple planners to have a place to track all of the different planners that we're using. For me, as a multiple planner person, my, I guess, second tip for not being overwhelmed is to have a place that, to me, this is the way I use the term catch-all, is to have one place that catches all things, not just all events, the things that are happening in the future, like I just showed you earlier, but a place to capture everything that's happening within a day. And so for me, that typically means that I'm going to be using, this is the wrong planner. Let me get the right planner. The problem with multiple planners is that you might have the wrong planner. Okay, so I was looking for my daily planner. And so one of the things that I want to be able to do is track everything that happens within a day. And so I consider this my catch-all, my daily planner, as my catch-all, because just to show you an example, I'm going to try to flip to the same week that I was talking to you earlier about, which was end of March, beginning of April. And so let's see if I even did pages for it. Okay, I did. So I'll just use this page as an example. I don't know which day of the week it is because I am using outdated pages, but these are the pages, or this is the page for March 28th. Okay, so for me, again, this is kind of like my second tip. First tip, again, place to track all events. The second tip is a place to just kind of journal or write out everything that's happening within a day. This is the way that I use the phrase catch all. Like, it's a place to catch all the things. It includes events, but also just the general, like, kind of hustle and bustle, the routines and things like that. Not just events, but events plus everything else. So this is really written kind of messy, so I must have gone back in and kind of made these notes like after the fact. But just to show you what this looks like in this planner, I'm going to leave it open on this page too, instead of just kind of flipping back and forth. This is March 28th. Okay, and so March 28th is this day, and you can see I have basically one note in here. And so again, this is my future planner, place where I put all of my future notes. And so this one future note was that reports cards went out, right? You can see that gets transferred right here. And so in addition to this one event that got transferred over, you'll notice I cross it out too, because we actually, I wrote this like way in advance here, and then I wrote it over here, but we actually didn't get report cards. So I just crossed it out. I'm totally fine with like scratching things out, things like that. This was something that I transferred straight from my future log or my pre-planner over here. And then all of these notes just happened that day. All right. And so just it's a place for me to write down and catch all the things that are happening. So I note things, for example, like news, Facebook, I filmed, Rosie went to my mom, apparently, I drank some coffee, I worked here. And so this is an example. I do have a dedicated work planner. And so I'll put a note, and this page catches the fact that I have worked, and I worked for a large chunk of time, 9:45 to 2:30, but I also will have more detailed notes in my work planner, and I'll show you an example of that in just a second. So right here, coffee, and then right here I have a note saying lunch. Okay, so sometimes I don't actually even write what it is, I just put lunch. And right here I pumped, right? So this all happened while I was working, apparently. But these are the things that I write in here, because this catches every single thing that happens in a day for me, right? And I'll show you this example of lunch in my food log. And again, this is how I work in multiple planners. So let's go to the very back here to March 28th. I didn't date some of this, so this might be a little bit more difficult to do. So let me see. All right, so this is February. Okay, so this is March right here. Okay, and so this is the corresponding page here. And again, this catches everything, and this is my food log specifically. So the notes that are related to food right here, coffee, is marked right here. I had coffee. There's a bagel. There's the bagel listed right here in my food log. Sometimes right here, even in my catch-all, I will be specific, but most of the times I'll just put breakfast. And then breakfast, it means that there's something noted in my food log, and I can come over here and see that I actually, for breakfast, had a bagel, right? So another example is this lunch, right? So it's written lunch here, and I actually was more specific here and put noodle soup, but sometimes I just put lunch, and then I'll be able to come to my food log and see noodle soup. And then down here, I, again, ate a bunch, right? And so I just transferred these over here. Now, I do a lot of times get questions about, like, I'm basically writing things over and duplicating things. That is true. That's one of the things about working in multiple planners that does come up a lot. But let me just show you the 29th just to see what this looks like. So this is the 29th, right? And here again, I put coffee, and so that's marked on my food log. Right here I have lunch, and I was specific about what I ate for lunch. But then later I have food for mom, food at mom, right? That is just a very general note, and you can kind of see here what I actually ate at my mom's house. Okay, and so hopefully that makes sense. The more specific planners that I have are the more detailed notes that I take based on what I have in my catch-all, right? And so here I tend to be more general, and I'll write things like lunch, work, Bible, church, and then I go into my faith journal and have the church notes and the Bible notes, or breakfast, lunch, dinner, and that will be all that's listed in my catch-all. And I can go into my food log and actually see what breakfast, lunch, and dinner were. I of course transfer my events from here to here, so that way it's in my catch-all as well. And like all of my notes are like that. So for me, I have the catch-all. Well, for starting here, I have my future log, what I call my pre-planner, that captures all events, all right, all future events, all current events, all future events, right? So it lands on this page, and I cross it out if I need to reschedule, whatever, right? This is like just my messy planner. I write everything that occurs in the future, events-wise, in here. Sometimes tasks, but mostly events. Then when the day comes, I transfer those notes into my catch-all. So all events go into my catch-all, and then this catch-all then captures not just the events, because I transfer those from here, but also any events that come up in the moment, any tasks, any meals, anything that happens in the day. All the things I capture and catch on this. So that's why I call it my catch-all, because it catches everything about my day. And then my specialized planners, I have several. One is my food log. The other, which I had out earlier, is my faith planner. So this is where I take all my faith notes. I also have my work planner. It's getting like really tight here, but I also have my work planner. And then I have, of course, my home binder system, which tracks like chores and just all the like reference materials that I have. The planner that I have kind of deleted from 2023 is my social media planner, but I typically do have a fourth like specialized planner, which is social media and like planning related type stuff. For 2023, I did get rid of it. I'll probably in 2024 bring that back into the lineup, but those are my specialty planners. And you can see all of that. Again, you can see that all noted in my planners. As you go through my catch-all, you'll see the events that I transferred from my pre-planner. They land here or in the time where they're supposed to be. And then I take notes. I have notes about pumping. I have like actual food, but then I can get more generic and just put things like work. And then I can go into my work planner and see what notes related to work I have for January 10th. And you can flip through the entire thing and see that just kind of coming up over and over and over again. That's just how I do it. Now the last tip, and I feel like tip number 2 is very, very long, but basically catch-all to catch everything more generally, and then the specialized planners is where I break those things down into more detail. Okay, so that was tip number 2. Tip number 3 is this pile right here, the special planners that I have, or like the more categorized specialized planners that I have. If I'm busy, I just don't use these, okay? It's totally fine for me just to stick to just the catch-all, which is really the heart and soul of it. If I am too busy to break down and write down every single thing that I've eaten for the day, or like every single detail about work, I think it's okay for me just to skip those things, right? It's important for me to track my tasks. I need to know what I need to do, and I need to know where I need to be, like my events and my tasks. But all the like the kind of journaly type things, like what I ate for the day, that's really not important. I like to use the rule of thumb as like, what will I need to know in 10 years? And really at the end of the day, I don't really need to know that much about the day. I need to know that I went to work, that I was at work, that I was sick maybe, and that's about it. So I don't necessarily need to get down to the nitty gritty. The nitty gritty planners, these specialized planners, are really for me to keep track of myself and to just enjoy planning. These are like where my hobby kind of comes into play. These are the more functional planners. But if I'm running short on time and I don't have time to do like the more breakdown, like specialized type of planning, then I can just write down that I had lunch and write what lunch is. And I would be fine with just using just the catch-all and tracking all the things on the catch-all. So that's pretty much it. Now I feel like I was kind of all over the place, but basically it's broken down, as you can see here, into these stacks. Pre-planner, tip number 1, have a pre-planner, have a place to track all future events. have a catch-all is tip number 2. That catch-all should transfer everything from your pre-planner onto the catch-all, but then also track everything a little bit more generically, more generally, and then use the specialized planners to be able to break down all of the generic notes in your catch-all into more specific notes if you want to. All right. And so that's how my system operates. The thing that I think is most important for me, at least, to stay not overwhelmed with the process is to be able to let go of it. Like, I don't strive for perfection at all in this system. Some days I don't use any of this stuff, and that's totally okay. Planning for me is meant to be functional. It's meant to get me where I need to go, doing the things I need to do. And if I am able to remember it without using my planners, then that's totally okay. I am not good about that. I'm very bad about remembering things. And so I need my planners, but I don't need all of these planners. If I can function and live my life with just this planner or just this planner, one of these two, and these get left to the wayside, then that's totally fine. So yeah, that's my thought process. Hopefully that was helpful to you. I got the question, like I said at the very beginning of the video, about how I am able to use multiple planners, and my response in that moment was I don't always use it every single day, and that's true. I don't use it every single day. I do try to use it at least once a week. Otherwise, what's the point of breaking it down? But I don't have to do it every single day. The things I do use every single day, or nothing really. I mean, I do try to look at this every single day, but I don't always use it. I don't always write in it every single day. I just need to be able to note the events, right? So none of these planners are like I have to be in it every single day. I do need to reference it, but I don't have to write it. I don't have to decorate it. I don't have to do all of those things every single day. I just need to go where I need to go, do the things that I need to do. So again, I hope this video was helpful. Since the question came up, I thought I would at least explain my thought process for how I use multiple planners. So hopefully that was helpful to you. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions about the way I plan in multiple planners that I didn't answer in this video, feel free to leave me a comment and ask. I'm more than happy to talk about the way that I do things. So leave those comments and I'll respond to them. And again, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel. And until the next video, bye guys.